this is something that has been in the works and that we've been talking about since back in December, since the new year. And even though we've gotten a lot of curveballs in 2020, again, really excited to kick this off. And, more importantly, just really, really happy to be a part of TCAT. And I look forward to meeting you guys going forward, albeit virtual with the virus. But, I really think that this is going to be a good form of us, getting to know each other. And at least at first, for you guys to kind of get a chance to know a little bit about me. Just some logistics to start off, because this is a big call. Any questions you have at all, just throw them in the message box on Zoom, and I'll try my best, and Mike will hold me to it to stop a little bit in between to read some of your questions, if any. And then in case you guys are worried about missing out on some of this information, I'm going to, kind of introduce some of these slides in this PowerPoint deck. We'll be sharing that with you guys after the call. And then in addition, this will be recorded. So if you guys want to go back, it'll be there kind of in the archives. And then more importantly, I'll be available, one-on-one to speak with you guys more individually and to kind of delve more into these topics. But without further ado, I just wanted to kind of introduce myself a little bit more. So I grew up in West New York. I attended number 2 school, shout out number 2 school for whoever was there. I then went to the middle school. I think I was the 3rd graduating class. I have an older brother who's 3 years older, and he was the 1st graduating class of the middle school. And then after middle school, went to Memorial for 2 years, freshman and sophomore year. So you see right here, I was in the football and baseball team, but there's a picture down here of me in Memorial Baseball. There's a picture here up on the top right. I might zoom in the way. This is actually in Greece. I could have found a better picture. I'm look at all my long hair there. I'm not even looking at the camera, but anyway, we went to Greece as part of this club that was at Memorial. So Mr. Kranis was our English freshman honors teacher, and we talked about Greek mythology a lot. And myself and a group of students approached her about creating a book club, but around Greek mythology. And it went really well. We met after school for 30 minutes once a week. And then we somehow were able to get some funding to take a trip to Greece. We approached the board about the club, what it was doing. And that's us. One way or another, we made it over to Greece. So it's one of my most memorable Memorial experiences. So you guys are probably wondering, so I only went to Memorial for 2 years. So I transferred actually in high school to Blair Academy for my junior and senior year. It's a really small private boarding school in Northern Jersey. I had gotten a sports scholarship to play baseball and football there. And it was a really good experience. And I'll talk a little bit more about that going forward. So after Blair Academy, I went to play football for 1 year at this small school, Wesleyan, that Liz mentioned earlier. And then I transferred to the University of Virginia after my freshman year of college and graduated from there. You guys are probably this guy's crazy. He's transferred so many times. It's I'm all over the place. But it all worked, it all was a great experience. I'm really thankful for it. Wouldn't have changed it for anything. So now I'm working for Accenture Consulting. I joined them in July 2016 after graduating. But essentially, I'm kind of in the nonprofit space, but I've gotten some industry-wide experience. Essentially, my job is a problem solver. So we work with our clients and kind of, see what it is that what their goals are and what their current issues are, and we kind of roadmap and find a way for them to get them to that goal and fix those issues. So I know it's a little general, but it's kind of what it is in a nutshell. Outside of work, I'm a big sports fan. I love to travel, and I'm a big movie buff and food buff, of course. So you see, I have a food picture here of Greece, and then down here in my cap and gown is my mom and I when I graduated from Virginia. This is a picture on the left of me playing football at Blair, and then on the bottom right was this study abroad opportunity I had at the University of Virginia, where we were working with these small wineries and helping them with their gift shops because they had trouble basically collecting data on the stuff they needed to restock. So I actually presented that in Spanish, and it was pretty funny. But Really good experience. And then last thing I wanted to add is that I'm actually kind of in the same boat as you guys, is that I'm applying to business school, not this upcoming year, but the following in 2021. So you guys aren't the only ones, in pain right now, kind of with your applications and your essay. So actually excited to kind of learn about you guys and read your essays, and I think it'll be really helpful for me through the process. So you guys now are probably wondering, why am I here today? Why am I part of TCAT? And I just wanted to share with you guys a little bit of background about kind of this passion I've had to kind of serve as like a mentor slash like quasi college counselor, specifically for people like from West New York, but in general for like people from, underrepresented communities. I bring that up because I was lucky enough to have, been able to transfer, to get 2 years of memorial, transfer to Blair Academy, and then, reach my college education goals. And, I look back and reflect at the fact that like so many of my friends from West New York and Memorial, like a lot of them now, they were working right out of high school. And a lot of them, when I talk to them now, they say that they just didn't really know much about the college process. And there really wasn't much of an influence of like other students who were kind of going to a lot of different schools. So I started to kind of wonder why it was that just because I transferred to another high school, that I was able to kind of learn about all the different colleges out there and basically, all the opportunities that are out there. And so I started to kind of, think about it some more. And, I don't have to tell you guys this, it's a universal truth, but there is a gap in college access for those who are in public schools versus those that are in private schools. And you can look it up, or you might already be aware, there's a ton of reasons why this is, an issue. And I think, you guys are already, most of you aware with what, TCAT's trying to do. But I think that TCAT is a solution to like the most critical of the differences between private and public school. And again, because I've seen both sides, I think that, I'm lucky enough to have like these resources to kind of realize, looking back, what were the things that I wish I had guidance on or wish I knew better, so that I could have, been able to reach my college goals. And the first that I wanted to share is SATs and standardized testing. So of course, like when I went to Blair Academy, I was mostly like around like mostly a white population, very affluent. And it's just, the numbers show this. They have, private school students have more access to SAT tutoring, to getting private college counselors. So, financially, there's definitely a gap. And although at boarding school, when I was at Blair, I didn't get the best SAT scores, a lot of my classmates and peers were, scored higher because they had a lot of like direct help with regards to the SAT or the ACT, I should say. And, I think that TCAT is doing a great job and has already with, helping you guys to understand the importance of the SAT by, setting dates and deadlines for you guys to make sure that you're taking your pre-SATs for your younger students that are on this call. And then for your older students to make sure you're taking the SAT more than once and receiving the right resources, the free resources that you have access to be able to kind of maximize that score. The second topic would be that in my experience at Blair versus Memorial is that there's something about being at a school or surrounded by a lot of people that are all applying to college or have gotten into college. So like when I went from Memorial to Blair, I just remember like everybody, it wasn't so much like a competition in a bad way, but it's just like my roommate, everybody that because I dormed there and I lived on campus, they were all talking about schools and colleges all the time, schools I never even heard of, because like my older brother from Memorial at the time when I was there, he graduated from Memorial and went to TCNJ. And it's a great school. And I had some friends from Memorial that went to great schools, but it was very rare for them to mention a school out of state. And for that reason, I really didn't have much of an idea of all the different colleges that are out there, all the programs. So I think TCAT does a great job of kind of solving not so much a problem, but promoting that support. And I think that's what we are. We're a support group, and we want to make you guys feel like you're not singled out, and you're not the only ones out there who are trying to kind of break the cycle and, you know, make it out of Western Europe to, you know, the college of your dreams. You know, we'd like to be able to say that, you know, we've made it to some extent, and you know, still are. I'm still trying to apply to business school myself, and it isn't easy, but with the support group and the influence of having us around, and you guys yourselves working together and kind of not competing, but just, you know, motivating each other through trying to reach those goals, I think is really essential, and something I wish I had looking back. And then the last and most important topic about kind of bridging the gap is just the college counselor. So at Blair, I had a very dedicated college counselor when I got there, who only had like 4 or 5 students to work with. So they were always free and available. So like you could meet with them whenever you wanted. And my college counselor was a former not a financial aid officer. My college counselor was a former admissions officer at like one of the universities. And so he had direct experience with, you know, being the one to select from applicants. And in addition, when he started to work at Blair, by the time he was my college counselor, he was taking trips like every weekend to meet with admission officers at all these schools. So it was just such a huge resource. And for me, that was like by far the biggest thing, because again, I didn't know about any of these schools, and he told me about all the schools that were out there. He made sure that I was aware of like the SAT dates, kind of what like TCAT's doing to make sure I set an exam date, and that I was, you know, taking an appropriate action towards studying. And I think that that was just invaluable. And what TCAT is doing and will do is kind of serve as that college counselor. You know, of course, we're not certified. We haven't been financial aid officers in the past, but we've been through the process. And I think if I had the kind of dedicated college counselor that gave me, you know, one-on-one support, kind of like what we're, you know, doing and, you know, strive to continue to do, I think that that would have played a huge, huge part in me being able to kind of make it out and, you know, get those college goals of mine. So I know that was a lot, but I think it's just really important to touch on. And, you know, Emmanuel, I know that I texted you already and you said it's okay for me to mention it. So I don't want you guys to think I'm just going to call you out randomly. But I actually got the opportunity through Michael and Liz to talk with Emmanuel. This was a couple months ago. And I just felt really bad because he reached out saying like how he had gotten into Virginia, Wesleyan, and Middlebury. And I just so happened to go to Wesleyan and transferred, and I went to Virginia. And before I went to Wesleyan, I was deciding between Wesleyan and Middlebury. So I've been to Middlebury as well. So it's just this huge coincidence. And these things happen, though, you have to realize. And I was like on the phone with him for like an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, just talking with him about the unique features of each of the schools and giving him, you know, a layout, because again, with COVID-19, he couldn't visit any of those schools. And that's just a huge part of making your decision. So it just felt really good. He ended up choosing UVA, and I promise, like I wasn't biased towards UVA, but maybe a little bit. But either way, I know that he was really happy with the result of that call because he was able to make a more informed decision. If we hadn't made that connection, he might not have known about some of those things that I mentioned to him on that call, because I had that direct kind of experience to going there. So I hope that gives you guys a little bit of a better, you know, idea of, you know, the whole point of this, the intention and the goal. And the Emmanuel example brings me into our first topic here, which is on networking. I think it's a really good transition to help kind of explain how it works exactly. So I have a picture here where it says, not some, but all opportunities will come from and because the strength of your network. I'm not sure if you guys cut out, you can see the bottom here. But so I start with, you know, sharing this picture because I want to kind of get across to you guys how important networking is. And, you know, we're talking, you know, TCAT's about promoting for you guys to reach your college goals, whatever they may be. But in my, you know, personal experience, I think networking is so important that whatever school you guys decide to go to, it's going to be extremely important, of course, in, you know, the programs, your schooling, you're going to grow a lot. And I just want to kind of touch on how networking is, where you end up in your career isn't going to be because of what school you went to. And of course, it'll help for a lot of reasons, but it's going to be the strength of your network that's going to end up, you know, very likely determining where you end up in your career. And I say that because, you know, when I was going through these slides and thinking about, you know, what I was going to talk to you guys about, I thought about how, like, when I was at Wesleyan, before I went to Virginia, I was, they had a really good career services and alumni network. And I remember I was starting the process of reaching out to alumni, and it was really helpful. I was doing like networking at Wesleyan. But the job that I currently have with Accenture, the reason why I got it wasn't because I just graduated from Virginia and sent in a resume or went to like a college fair, a career fair. It was because I was referred directly from an alumni from the University of Virginia to instead of like directly applying to a job post, I was referred. So I kind of skipped a step in the application process for my current job. So that just goes to say that, you know, even though I did go to the University of Virginia and it was an amazing experience, and, you know, I wouldn't, you know, trade it for anything, what ended up getting me my job and starting my career was my network. So I just, you know, I think that that's an important place to start. But, you know, it doesn't really describe kind of what networking is overall. So, you know, to give you the definition of what's on the internet, or in the dictionary, I should say, networking is the action or process of interacting with others to exchange information and develop professional or social contacts. So I know it's like really by the book, but something I'd like to add to that is that, you know, it's not a transaction. It's not like you're, this is something that you do to expect some sort of payment or reward. It's about paying it forward. And I think it goes back to my last slide when I was talking about why I'm doing this. And it's because I received my job because somebody referred me. They didn't have to do that. You know, they kind of did that out of their own, you know, goodness of their heart. And the whole idea of networking is about paying it forward. So the reason why you're doing it is because somebody else did it before you. And I just kind of want to touch on that before we delve more into what it is exactly. But in addition to the importance, you know, and I didn't know anything about networking in high school. And I think this is why it's so important to talk about now, because I didn't realize any of this. But, you know, with the whole like digital age and social media platforms, it's really changed how like, you know, jobs and careers start for a lot of people. You know, it used to be where you kind of just sent your resume in the mail to a company you wanted to work for. They reviewed it and said yes or no. But now so many recruiters are on LinkedIn and other social media engines to do their recruiting and find you, and your LinkedIn profile or wherever your portfolio is on, if it's a blog or something, that's going to be a key reason for them to kind of hire you. So everything right now is very, very much virtual. This wasn't something that we had 20 years ago. So it's somewhat of a new term. So if you don't understand kind of what it means, and as we go through this presentation, like struggle with some of the terminology, like don't worry, because again, I didn't know anything about this. I just kind of want to bring up again the example with Emmanuel to kind of define networking a little more. If Emmanuel wasn't a part of TCAT, he wouldn't have known Michael, and then he wouldn't have been able to speak with me on the phone about, you know, deciding on college. So in addition to that, when I spoke to Emmanuel, he said he was a pre-med student, and I don't have a pre-med background. So I couldn't give him an honest answer on the difference between the schools he was looking at and what his pre-med future might look like. So I then connected him with 2 students from UVA who were in pre-med and 2 students from Wesleyan who were in pre-med. So you can think about it like a tree, like branching. So by getting to meet me and speaking to me, his network then just expanded, probably without him even realizing it, by getting the chance to meet 4 other people to provide him with whatever information he needed to make a better decision. So I think that's another point about networking. It's not all about finding a job or getting a job, but it's also about just meeting people that you can learn from, or you can share with, whatever your experiences are, to help make whatever better informed decision. So I think the best way to talk about networking is kind of go through examples. So on this slide, I just wanted to share how you guys are already a part of several networks and you don't even realize it. And looking back, I didn't know what networking was, but I myself was a part of these very networks, and now realizing it, like just when I was creating these slides. So here on the bottom left, one of the networks that you're a part of is TCAT. And I think, I've already explained to you guys through the example with Emmanuel how that already is, coming to fruition. But another key point that I wanted to touch on was about how in high school, like your peers, your teachers, and your coaches or instructors, those are all people who are a part of your network right now. And I think about a couple of examples right away. So first of all, Mr. Kranis, who was in that picture I showed you when we were in Greece. I was really interested in Greek mythology ever since I was a kid, and there was a few other students who were as well. We kind of just started to talk with Mr. Kranis after class, and one thing led to another. We kind of built a relationship individually, but also as a group. And through that, we were able to end up doing the trip to Greece. So again, a reminder that it's not all about, networking isn't all about getting you into college or getting you a job, but it's just about developing yourself, whether it be your extracurriculars in high school, or even your college essays, because a lot of these teachers are going to be candidates to write your college essays. And the more they know about you, your interests, and who you are, the better of a recommendation they're going to be able to write. So, and I think the example of Mr. Kranis is a good one. The other one that I didn't realize about was my former football coach at Memorial. So he, I worked hard. I was, a good player, but, we were able to have a good relationship. It's just about kind of being likable and talking and like just speaking outside of class or speaking outside of practice and just getting to know them better. Again, organic networking, this is something that isn't transactional. But looking back at my football coach at Blair, if it weren't for him, at Memorial, if it weren't for him, I would have never gotten to Blair. And that's because he was able to refer me to the coach at Blair Academy, because he used to be a student there. So the perfect example of networking. I wouldn't have gotten to Blair if it weren't for the relationship I had with my football coach at Memorial. So I think these are like really good examples. I do want to touch on one more, which is, your fellow, whether it be your fellow TCAT peers or your fellow like high school students. These folks are also like a big part of your network, because I think back to when I was at Memorial and my sophomore year, I was in AP Bio. And my good friend, Kevin Agadello, who hopefully will be one of the guest speakers on our upcoming calls, he was 2 years older than me. And we kept in touch. We were, good friends. He lived kind of down the block. He ended up graduating from Memorial and going to the University of Virginia. So after whatever it was, 4 years later, after that AP Bio class, when I got to Virginia, I didn't know anybody. And because I had continued to keep in touch with him since Memorial, he was able to like kind of get my feet wet with the University of Virginia and starting to kind of know where to go for this and for that. But the best part about it all was that I ended up becoming a part of this club called Cash, where it was the intention was to like help with people filing their tax returns in the Charlottesville, Virginia area where my school is located. So, he was key to me transitioning to Virginia. And that was just from a relationship at Memorial. And the last example I want to share is like family and work. So with regards to work, like for you guys out there that have jobs right now, when you want to apply to a new job, you're going to need a referral, and you might even need like a letter of recommendation. So just kind of keep that in mind, that your coworkers or your supervisors, if you have them at your job, these are also people that are part of your network. And then your family, so including your family, friends, and neighbors. These are also people that, might have a job. For example, your neighbor might have a job that you're really interested in, and you're young right now, but if you start to learn, talk to him about your interest and him or her, and get to learn kind of about what they do, that might lead to an opportunity. My own example is I was interested in politics at like a younger age, but I didn't know how to get involved. And my cousin works like in local politics in Hudson County. And I told her like kind of my interest and how I wanted to get involved in politics. And she connected me with Albio series and the office of Senator Menendez. And I ended up interning at Senator Menendez's office in Newark. So even your family, like, are part of your networks. And again, just try to think about how this might apply to you guys in your own personal lives and how you kind of might already have this network. I think that's an important, kind of thought exercise. So on my next slide here, I do want to start to discuss the next step of networking, rather the first step and arguably the most important, which is your personal brand. And the way I like to think about your personal brand is that it's a combination of what you say about yourself and what others say about you. So in this little Venn diagram I created, it's kind of like the in-between right here, where those two things meet. So we're going to talk about more about, constructing your personal brand. But I think it's important, and this is optional, but when you guys start to come up with your personal brands, it's important for you to share those with your friends or your family, because they know you really well, and they'll give you honest feedback, because, like I said, they know you really well. And this way, it might influence how you change your personal brand. So we'll discuss now kind of how to start to unpack your personal brand and come up with it. And so there's three steps, and we're going to talk about them more in our upcoming sessions. But the first one is to discover who you are, being the first step of developing your personal brand. This is really key for your college application, that being like your college essay specifically, and your college interviews. The whole idea of the personal brand is, who are you? What are you passionate about, and what do you want to do? And it's important for you to understand what that is, because the next step after this is to create your identity, which we'll get to with kind of creating your own LinkedIn profiles. You can think about the personal brand as like your about me, and then the last step being kind of vocalizing that and getting the word out there about yourself. So again, for this first step, it's about discovering who you are. And I think a good way to break that down and brainstorm to start to come up with it is to think about it in the following, which is, what are your unique selling points? So, and while I mentioned this to you guys, start to think about it a little bit and see if you can come up with your own. So the first is, what are your unique selling points? So this is kind of like what sets you apart from others. What's your story? And a lot of you guys have already finished or are starting your college essays. So, think about what you're writing in your college essay and how that might reveal some unique selling points, or USPs, they call them. Then the next layer would be, what are your passions? So like, what are the things that motivate you? So for some of you, that might be a part of a club or sports teams. If you're involved in some sort of volunteer efforts, think about those and, what drives you to be a part of that club or lead that club or be a part of, that sports team or volunteer effort. And then lastly, I think this one's pretty clear. What are your skills? So like, what are you good at? Are you very technical? Are you good on the computer? Are you more visual and good at kind of creating, visualizing things better? So let's take like 10 seconds here. I'm going to try to transition to see what questions we have in the message box. And while I do that, start to think about if, maybe 1 to 2 of each of these, your unique selling points, your passions, and your skills. We're going to come back to this. So start to brainstorm. I'm going to see how I can find out how to get to the messaging here. Chat. Okay, we have a question. What if I'm struggling to come up with my personal brand? All right, this is a really good question. And I should have said this earlier. So again, guys, I myself, when I was in your shoes, I didn't know about any of this. So like, do not feel bad at all if you feel like, this is somewhat overwhelming, or if like you feel like you're the only one, if you can't be coming up with some of these. What we will be doing later, and we're going to share this with you guys after the call, is a personal brand quiz. So basically it's like a survey with leading questions that's intended to help you to realize what your passions and skills and unique selling points might be without you kind of realizing it. So it's really helpful. At my company, they actually encourage everybody when they start to fill that quiz and survey out. so that they can, understand their personal brand. This is something that they taught us when I started at my job right away, the personal brand. So like the fact that you guys are starting to understand and familiarize yourself with it at this early age is huge. I wish that this was something I knew about. So again, don't feel bad. And I'm more than happy to work with you guys individually to help unpack these as well. So do not worry. Okay, so this is my next slide right here. It's about vocalizing your personal brand through the elevator pitch. So if you could think about the personal brand a little bit like your about me on your whatever Facebook or your LinkedIn or whatever it is, it's kind of like 3 to 4 sentences just describing yourself. But what the difference between the elevator pitch and the personal brand is that the elevator pitch is like a brief synopsis of your about me or your personal brand. It's called an elevator pitch because it's supposed to be intended to like simulate you walking into an elevator with like the CEO of a company you really want to work for, and you have the elevator ride to convince him that he should hire you or at least be interested, in continuing to speak with you. So it's about like 30 seconds or so. Think about it that way. And, the reason why it's so important is because, and again, I mentioned this on the last couple of slides, but this is going to be critical for your college application and college interviews. So, the college interviewers or your job interviewers, they want you to sell yourself to them. So you basically, in your elevator pitch, you want to market yourself. And I'll give you guys an example shortly of my own elevator. Of my own elevator pitch. And so next in this slide, I have that in order for your personal brand to be recognized, you must be able to describe yourself to others through your background and experiences. So again, a quick and effective synopsis of your background and experience, usually with people who you don't know. So the way I think about it is like, when I was in high school, I wanted to be in politics. So the elevator pitch for me would be walking into like Senator Menendez's, an elevator with Senator Menendez. Well, what is it that I would tell him about myself so that he was interested and potentially would be interested in learning more about me and potentially hiring me. The pitch is all about who you are, what you do, and what you want to do. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important this is going to be when you guys have your college interviews. And I think that it's important to start thinking about it that way, because I don't want this to come off as only being relatable to like the job market and what your careers are going to be. It's, a lot more, thinking in the short term. This is something that's going to be coming up for you, a lot of you guys. So here I have an example of my elevator pitch that I'll share with you guys as if I were in high school. My name is Max Kaplan. I'm a Cuban American from a town called West New York, New Jersey, located right across the Hudson River from New York City. I am passionate about leadership and community service. Outside of school, I utilize my bilingual fluency and communication skills to tutor English as a second language students and help with their transition to West New York and Memorial High School. I am interested in understanding your experiences with community service and how it can lead to a work opportunity in the field of politics. So this right here is just an elevator pitch in the sense that I walked into an elevator with Senator Menendez and wanted him to be interested in me and get the sense that I was very interested in what he's doing and wanting to learn more about what he's done and what he is doing currently. So I want to go back real quick to the slide where we talked about our unique selling points, passions, and skills. And some of the, the ones that I thought about off the top of my head were for like unique selling points, that I'm bilingual and that I'm Cuban American. What are your passions? Well, I'm passionate about community service and I'm passionate about, learning and leadership. And what are your skills? I'm a good communicator. I'm good at problem solving. These are the kind of, things that came to mind for me when I was trying to filter out each of these. So real quick, I want you guys to first point out in the chat box, where in this elevator pitch of mine do you see where I'm pointing out my unique selling points, things that are unique about me? So I'll give you guys a few seconds to see if any of you could have pointed that out. Let me get back here to see. Second paragraph, body paragraph. So actually, for my unique selling points, these are things that I kind of talk about. Remember what we said. These are things that kind of describe my story and things that set me apart from others, from like the common, what your common applicant would be. The things that might be subjects in your college essay. So actually, the unique selling points are that I'm Cuban American, and believe it or not, and a lot of people wouldn't realize this again. So don't worry if you guessed the wrong one. But West New York, New Jersey. So like whenever I talk to somebody, whether they be like from the States or from outside the United States, whenever I mention West New York, they immediately think you're from New York. But then I say New Jersey. It's like I'll never forget when, like, for basketball, for West New York, like the basketball league, we would go to like other schools, and we went to Pennsylvania once, and we're like, they're from West New York, New Jersey, and it was so awkward. But seriously, like whenever I bring up to people that I'm from West New York, it always catches them right off the bat. It's like a really unique area geographically, and it's something that can break the ice when you first talk to somebody right away and kind of make things a little more relatable. So again, no worries if you didn't pick that one out. And then I think a lot of us on this call, we come from interesting backgrounds, whether that be ethnicity or just the fact that, you elaborating on the fact that, West New York is, a majority Latino, Hispanic population. So right off the bat, those are the two things that, I would kind of call my unique selling points. But for those of you that guessed the middle paragraph, you aren't wrong. I think it's important to drive the point about, the uniqueness of what you do. So it's not only about the uniqueness or the unique selling points of your background, but it's also about the uniqueness of what you might be doing, whether it's a club you started, like the first club at Memorial. So say, for example, like the Greek mythology club, that's something that most applicants aren't, doing or, talking about. So, but I could definitely see how, working with ESL students is something that's unique. And if I'm a college interviewer, like an admissions officer, I would kind of be taken aback and be like, oh, that's really unique. So for those of you that guessed that, you're definitely right. Just trying to kind of drive the point of how important it is to tell your story, excuse me. And then next, I kind of give it away. So I won't ask you guys, but I state in this second or third sentence that what I'm passionate about. Passion is a really strong word, and whatever comes after that, that's going to be most likely what the person that you're giving your elevator pitch to is going to, kind of keep an ear out for. So if I'm talking to Senator Menendez, who's a politician and a leader, when I say I'm passionate about leadership and community service, that catches him, right away, and that's the hope. So, and then lastly, at the end, I say that what I'm interested in. So, the thing that's different about your personal brand and your elevator pitch is that in your elevator pitch, you're going to end it by telling the other person or your audience what it is that you want to do. What do you want as a result of this conversation? Because it would be weird if I just said to him, oh, I'm Max Kaplan from West New York, Cuban American. I like to, outside of school, I mentor and tutor ESL students. So it's like, okay. And so it's like, I want to further develop this conversation or this relationship by getting to know more about you and your experiences and how they might be relatable and how what you tell me might be something new that I'll learn. And yes, this might not lead to a job opportunity, but still we've developed a relationship. And it can be something that develops into a job opportunity down the line. Or B, it could be that, this person becomes your mentor and there's somebody who may not be, somebody you work for, but it's somebody that is going to appreciate that you went out of your way and kind of reached out to them. And you guys don't have to think about the elevator pitch as being literal. Like you have to walk in an elevator. and, you know, do this for somebody. It's just like it's just an example. But event, and we're going to get to this when we talk about, you know, your LinkedIn social media platforms, is the outreach effort, which is kind of like the last step in networking and with regard to your personal brand, where you're going to be, you know, reaching out to people via email, whether it's school alumni or whether it's just somebody at a company or, you know, research firm that you are interested in the work they're doing. So I just kind of want to bring it all together by helping you guys think about like the, you know, the ultimate goal and linking it all together. So you guys are like, there's an assignment. What is this? I didn't sign up for this. So we do have an assignment, but, you know, for most of you and those specifically in TCAT, you know, you've been selected because of, you know, you have the work ethic and motivation. And so I don't think this will be, you know, troublesome for you guys in terms of workload. But what I want you guys to do for our next class is to, you know, think about your personal brand. And again, you're going to have this material to refer back to, so you can look at the slides and be able to start listing what are my unique selling points. And you guys can even use, you know, some of the ones I gave you, like being from West New York and what your ethnicity or background is. And I want you guys to, you know, start to list those out and form them into an elevator pitch. And again, you guys can use the template that I provided. It's going to be 3 to 4 sentences describing your background experience along with your interests and skills. So basically, again, synopsis of your personal brand, tell your story, what do you do, and what do you want to do. And this is optional, but if I were you guys, I would share it and practice it with your friends or family and ask for their honest opinion at first, because like I said in the earlier slide, it's a combination of what you say about you and what others say about you. So there's a quiz here that I've linked, and we'll send it specifically in the email. And it shouldn't take too much of your time, 5 to 10 minutes. And it just asks you leading questions to help you understand what, you know, your unique selling points, passions, and interests might be. So what is next? So I mentioned earlier that we have, you know, the speaker series is going to be, you know, cover a variety of topics. Specifically right now, it's a 5-part series, this being the first. We're going to spend the next 2 sessions talking about networking. So we're going to talk a little bit more, you know, about kind of defining those terms, that first phase, discovering who you are. And then it's a matter of bringing in the social media platforms and creating your identity. So, you know, turning that into a LinkedIn about me. And then eventually it's outreach. It's about reaching out to people that you want to be a part of your network and sending them that elevator pitch, and ultimately starting to maintain that network. So even though it's not a direct job opportunity, it could be down the line and it could be a future mentor of yours, but keeping in touch with that person is really important. And we'll get into all of that and spend, you know, dedicate time towards it so that I don't have to run through it like I am right now. But lastly, we will be covering 2 other topics. One being financial aid preparation, which is, you know, super important because so many applicants fail to fill it out properly. And we hope to have a guest speaker for this call, so you have to wait and see. But we're going to talk about the FAFSA and the CSS, which are like the applications for financial aid. And we'll talk about loans, subsidized versus unsubsidized, work study, and some other topics that we think are going to be really helpful. And then the last topic will be about college interviews and finding your fit on a college campus. And we hope to have some shared experiences from high school alumni and former students about their college interview experience and how they transition to college. So that's all I have for you guys today. I am going to stick around to talk about, to field some questions. I see we have some in the message box here. So I know it's late on a weekday, so I understand if you have to go. And feel free, I'll leave the slide right here if you want to take a picture. Again, we'll be emailing you this stuff, but if you want to take a picture right now just to set a reminder, this will be, you know, the assignment. And we'll share the quiz link as well, separately. So I will open up the chat now. Nice, Eric. You pointed out the Cuban American part. Well done. First paragraph, nice. So I think you guys are both right with regards to pointing out those unique selling points, both in the first and second paragraph. So I have a question up top. Were you super involved in clubs at UVA? Was balancing networking and academics hard for you? First question, super involved at clubs at UVA. So I actually was. So I mentioned how when I transferred in, I didn't really know about it. And my good friend from Memorial, Kevin Agadello, he was one of the leaders on for this club, Cash, Creating Assets and Hope. It was the tax return stuff. So I was heavily involved in that program. And I was also involved in this program called the Community Honor Fund, where we helped give out like friendly, non-predatory loans to people who worked on campus. So those were pretty time consuming, but definitely like really, really helpful for my career and just what I'm interested in, which is kind of the nonprofit space. And we can talk about that more, you know, all of you guys, if you have any questions and are shy to bring it up now, feel free to bring it up individually. Was balancing networking and academics hard for me? So yeah, it definitely was. But you know, honestly, the networking is something that is kind of tedious. For me, it came down to taking, you know, 2 days on a weekend and just sitting in the library and sharing and writing out my elevator pitch and just reaching out to alumni from Virginia and sending them copy paste, sending them the elevator pitch so that I could hopefully get in touch with them on the phone. So it really is, if you think about it in the sense that it's kind of like, it's the kind of thing you just have to grind through and take 2 days out initially to get yourself out there. And then it's hard to kind of put a number on how time consuming it was to kind of call them or to email them back throughout the process. But it really wasn't that hard. The hardest part is coming up with your personal brand, developing that elevator pitch, and it just becomes tedious. It's easy, but tedious when you just have to kind of copy and paste when you're reaching out to alumni in your specific area of interest. So it wasn't hard, honestly. The hardest part was balancing social life and academics when it comes to college. Let's see. So I see a couple other questions here. Really good guys with the questions. I love it. How do we know what to include and what to leave out about ourselves when we are creating our personal brand? Great question. So, and again, you know, as TCAT, that's why we're here. And that's why I'm here, to be able to work with you guys on this. So in short, the way I would think about it is like, and I'm not sure, Ivan, if you've already, you know, written your college essay or are writing it, but what I would say is it's basically like when in your college essay, if and when you refer to like your background and experience and what you want to do, it's a matter of minimizing that to a point where you can kind of, it's not quite your elevator pitch where you only have 30 seconds, but it's a matter of just listing out and those unique selling points, what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what are your skills, and what do you want to do with it. So it's just, it's not a quick synopsis of it, which is your elevator pitch. It's your like about me is the best way I like to think about it. And we're going to talk about this more when we get to LinkedIn and how you want your about me to look like. But if you can think about it in the sense of it being your about me on a web page where everybody's going to see it, like being your college admissions officers or your future job employers, what would you want them to know about you? And what is it that sets you apart from others? What do you love to do? What are you passionate about? And what are you good at? And what do you want to do with that? So hopefully that answers it a little bit. And again, we can talk about it more one-on-one. Were you super involved in clubs at UVA? Was balancing network and academics hard for you? Oh, I already answered that one, sorry. What would you say were your most outstanding notable achievements during your whole time at high school? So for the first part, I guess with regard to Memorial, I would say like, so I was like the top of my class, like the top 5, I'd say. So from an academic perspective, that was like really important and big for me. And then from an athletic standpoint, I was in the freshman baseball team, but then I made varsity as a sophomore. And so sports were kind of big achievements. And then when I got to Blair Academy, I became like a part of like this gene sequencing club. So it was like very much science related, but we were able to like make some really big research that was posted in like the Rutgers version of their newspaper, and where they talked about how us students at Blair Academy like uncovered like some research from our gene sequencing. So that was really cool. And then from an athletic standpoint, I like won like a all-state football award my senior year. So I guess those I'd say were like the two biggest. I also did like a speech um, about leadership during one of our we have like these kind of school meetings at Blair. So that was something else that was really big. I'd say those are like the big three for me. How did you come across your passions or made sure that's what you're passionate about, even if you're unsure or interested in multiple things? This is a really good question. So I think like, and again, this is why like it's important to start like at a young or, earlier age, because like I mentioned to you guys, I was really passionate about like public service and politics, but now I'm not really in the political space. I'm more so working on the private sector side with like business, but I kind of found a middle ground with nonprofit. So it has a little bit of politics involved, but as I grew through college and after I transferred from Wesleyan to Virginia, I started to get more of like a economics/business interest. So yeah, your passions might change, and when you get to college, it's going to be a very important time for you to grow and to see, just start to think and mature, and just overall learn things that might change, your direction. So honestly, when I came across my passions was kind of like at the end of college, when I started to like take a couple classes that were related to like, nonprofits. And I've, made it a goal of mine at work to focus specifically on like the nonprofit sector. So like think about like international development and financial inclusion, like helping small businesses in South America that need like loans, for example, but can't get it otherwise. So that's a really good question. Your passions might change, but the idea is that right now, as you're applying to college, there are some passions you have, whether that be a connection to the sport that you're a part of, or the club, or the volunteer service that you currently do. There's definitely a connecting point, and one way or another, I think we can definitely work with you to find that. So don't worry if you feel like you're not sure about what it is that you're passionate about, or that might change and you can't really, or if you can't pick one and you have a few. These are all things that are common. So we're at 9:01, we're a minute after, but I think we did really good on time. So for those that are still on the call, thank you so much for joining. I'm super excited about, our future together. And otherwise, I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Max, for all of the advice that you've given us. Guys, before you jump off the call, we're going to just quickly end with a brief telling you guys what's to come. So, Max, if you could allow Michael to share his screen.
I'm looking for it. There it is.
There you go. Okay, cool. So thank you guys again for joining. Thank you, Max. Here, guys, so if tune into the next week's session, again, it's going to be Wednesday at 8 p.m. Here's the form. I'm going to put it in the chat right now so you guys can click on it and RSVP. We will also be sending this out in an email, so keep an eye out for that. Again, join our mailing list so you can keep an eye out for updates in terms of new opportunities from TCAT. We're still expanding. We're still a very young program, so like we want to make sure it reaches as many people as it can and like be of a resource for you guys. So again, like any suggestions that you have, our contact information is also listed on those forms. So there are the links. And thank you guys so much for attending. I hope this was beneficial for everybody. Feel free to type in the chat. Thank you, Max, because I think he did a great job. And even now as a as finishing my second year in college, I learned a lot, you know. I think this is great information. So we'll send out that email, so keep an eye out for that. But once again, thank you everybody. I hope you enjoyed.
Thank you, everyone. I think we're all done. Is there anything else we need to address?
This is it.
This is awesome, guys. Thank you so much for coming. Definitely do those links now as opposed to, like, fill out the forms now as opposed to later, because you'll probably forget, but they probably will be posted on our social media later on.
Yeah, if this recording worked, then I'll also link this so that you guys can view this later, but we'll be sharing the slides with you too. But other than that, you guys are free to jump off. And yeah, have a great night, everybody. We'll see you next week.